In this week's bloody episode of Berserk, Guts the Black Swordsman rampages through the Tower of Conviction to save his old comrade and lover, Casca, and Mazgus the Inquisitor and his band of torturers go through a devilish metamorphosis, transforming into a pack of Hell's Angels. This week's episode of Berserk was very transformative, and that's not just a pun on the fact that Mazgus and his group have transformed into these demonic angel-like beings, which are even more powerful than they were before. No, this week's episode was crazy for a number of reasons. One, Guts. The character is just so freaking badass, and I love the way that he interrogates people, especially when he finds himself in the Tower of Conviction. He finds Farnace, and he wants to get down to the dungeons to find Casca. He sticks a freaking sword in her mouth, not to mention, he completely destroys the statue right behind her with one punch of his prosthetic arm. It's freaking awesome. But the thing is, there's a lot of crazy things going on in the Tower of Conviction right now. Casca has been captured, and she's about to be thrown into an Iron Maiden when suddenly all of this demonic energy starts to explode from her, and all of these like weird amorphous blob-like demon creatures are crawling all over the Tower of Conviction, swallowing up people and dissolving them like freaking acid. However, for Casca, it almost seems as if they're actually protecting her. Not only that, but you have that egg-shaped apostle, which is still sort of hanging out in the shadows, and it's killing people indiscriminately, and it's also bestowing powers upon the people that it chooses. Case in point, Father Mazgus and his torturers. They were already monsters before, but now they have angel wings, and they're going to go through some even more dramatic transformations as the episodes go on, in particular, Mazgus himself. So this episode was a fantastic build-up to the initial confrontation where Guts is going to throw down with Father Mazgus and his torturers. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do in the next couple episodes, but let's talk about some more of the highlights of this one. I said it before and I'll say it again, I hate the character of Nina. It was made even more clear in this episode right here where she went down to this torture chamber and she was just flipping the shit. She was pissing herself, and I mean, who can blame her? Look at all of this crazy shit that is going on in this room. Although, all it took was just one fingernail being ripped from her hand to actually have her give up the name of Casca, or Elaine, the Black Witch, who apparently is the head of this cult, and that's what Mazgus is trying to do. He's trying to destroy this cult. But because this like weird demonic energy started pouring out of the castle, everybody starts to run away. That is, of course, except for Guts. I think one of my favorite things about this episode is actually how Guts gets into the Tower of Conviction. It opens up with Luca actually climbing this ladder and meeting someone that she knows, trying to get in contact with Jerome, when suddenly, with just like a shadow, just like freaking Batman, he just like goes to the top, jumps through the window, and immediately starts running through this castle and getting rid of anyone in his way, where then you have Luca, Jerome, Nina, and Isidro, who are trying to desperately find Casca. The problem is, when they finally start to get close to her, this is when Father Mazgus and his group have been given these brand new demonic powers thanks to that egg-shaped apostle, and they are going to use their powers with extreme prejudice. They really feel that these powers that they now have are a gift from God, and that's only going to make them all the more twisted, especially upstairs. I love when Mazgus comes in and half of his hat is completely burned away and it's still on fire, and he still manages to wear it the entire time while giving a huge elaborate speech. This guy is fucking insane, but he's really fun to watch. And now that his torturers have brand new powers, they're even more devastating than before. That one guy who has that big grappling hook, even before that, can like grab these huge pillars with it and throw them at all of his enemies, which crash through the walls, creating these huge freaking just explosions. It's awesome. Not only that, but we even got Skull Knight, who returned in this episode, which was a really welcome addition because there's this scene where Luca is about to fall off the side of the Tower of Conviction, and as she's falling, the Skull Knight starts to quite literally use his horse to ride down the entire tower and actually ends up saving her. And I honestly think that the Skull Knight is the only character in this Berserk anime adaptation that actually benefits from being a CGI character, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's a metallic looking character, so it actually sort of fits. It just really makes him pop, and he just looks so damn awesome in this series. However, the end of the episode is when things start to get really insane, when Guts makes his way to the top of the tower and begins to fight against Mozgus and his brand new goons, who are now super powered up and have angel wings. And we even get to see that some of them have some really freaky new forms. Case in point, that one big dude with the wheel, when his mask is actually removed, he kind of looks like a cherub or an angel himself, which is really perfect because now he has those big angel wings to go along with it. And now that he does have those wings, he can just literally fly around, smashing through pillars, destroying everything in his way, even managing to push Guts down and nearly completely knocking him out. All the little imps are flying around, throwing their wrenches at him. I love when one of them is about to try and pluck one of Guts' eyeballs out, and he just grabs it with his teeth and throws it away. That is exactly what Guts would do in a situation like that, and it just proves that this show is metal as all hell and super entertaining when it comes to the over-the-top action. And then, of course, you have that big final moment where Mozgus is surrounded by all of their torturers with all of the wings spread out and everything. It just looks majestic and evil as shit. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Berserk? Honestly, aside from all of the cool action scenes, everything else was kind of so-so. The episode opened up with this scene with Farnese, who is super pissed at her dad. She seems to have some extreme daddy issues because she's basically just being scolded by him and constantly watched. She feels that Serpico is the one who is constantly going up to him, and their relationship, again, is a very complex one, which, unfortunately, for people who only watch the anime, you're not really going to get to see much of that come to fruition. That is, of course, unless they decide to continue this anime adaptation, because their actual relationship is very interesting, and I don't want to give it away here, but I do love their dynamics of those two characters. I like how, even when all of this crazy shit is going on, that Serpico still manages to keep his cool. I mean, clearly, he has seen some shit, so none of this stuff is really bothering him all that much, or at least he's doing a really great job of not showing that on his exterior. As for Farnese, I can't really blame her for being really freaked out in this episode. After seeing all of those blob-like creatures come out and start to devour everyone in their wake, I would be shitting my pants too. And then you run into the Black Swordsman, who just puts a freaking knife in your mouth and starts punching shit all over the place. And Guts is a maniac. He wants to head right down to the basement and start kicking all sorts of ass. I like when he gets down there, you have Puck, who's hiding in this little, armored helmet, who's just sort of slowly walking around, and then they reveal it, and you see the goofy version of Puck, and then it immediately transitions to the more realistic version. It's pretty jarring. But of course, the biggest thing about this episode is the fact that Mozgus and his torturers get a very big upgrade, and we really even haven't seen the extent of what they're truly capable of quite yet, but I love the fact that they have angel wings. It's very fitting for characters like this, who are incredibly devoted to the religion without even knowing that their power stems from one of the darkest forces in the entire universe. I really love something about that. Mozgus still believes that what he is doing is good. It's good for his people, it's good for his religion, it's good for his soul. When really, he himself is the worst monster. He's become everything that he's actually ever hated. He just doesn't realize it quite yet. He's been twisted by all of these crazy events and that crazy egg-shaped apostle, and all of that's going to come to a head in the next couple of episodes of the series. On the technical side of things, another pretty decent-looking episode of Berserk. Again, you don't like the CG, you're not going to like it here, but I do think that certain characters benefit from that. Some of Mozgus' group looked really cool, and like I said, I think the Skull Knight looks freaking awesome in CG, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's really silvery and shimmery and just looks so great in the moonlight. I love me some damn Skull Knight. Also, I really love the side characters of the series, especially the ones who kind of play like the straight man or the straight woman of the story. Characters like Jerome and Luca and Isidro, they're really interesting in their own right, and Luca is just such an amazing character. She's a hooker with a heart of gold. Ultimately, though, this episode is a fantastic build-up to Guts' big confrontation with Mozgus and his group, and of course we're going to have a few more surprises as we hit the finale of this season of Berserk. We can only hope that we're going to get more in the future. It's really up to the fan base, I think, at this point, and as a huge fan of the Berserk universe, I want to see more, even if it has CG animation in it. So, I thought this was a pretty decent episode right here. It seems like as we get closer to the finale, the series is getting much, much better. So I'm going to give this episode right here a 4 out of 5. Check it out, Berserk fans. You might see something you like. But if any of you did watch this episode, tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. What did you think of the transformations that Mozgus and his group went through? What do you want to see in their upcoming battle with Guts? Did you have a favorite scene from this episode, whether it be something funny or action-packed or something that just genuinely freaked you out? Did you not like this episode? What do you want to see from the rest of this Berserk anime adaptation? Please tell me in the comments section below. You guys are amazing for watching my review. I really appreciate it. If you would just take a second to hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our latest anime, manga, and special videos as they are released. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.